Good morning, everyone. I literally just got out of bed. I think I've been up for 10 minutes. I had enough time to make a cup of coffee. That's about it. I think it's imperative that I talk about this because I woke up this morning and I had this overwhelming feeling I needed to do this, which means when I went to sleep last night, of course, I must have been somewhere because I wouldn't feel like this. And I haven't brushed my hair. I look like hell. I just woke out of bed. I'm still in my PJs. But we definitely need to talk about this. It's not a topic I talk about very often, but I'm going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about God source and why we need to have the connection back to God's source. My brother was here for 3 weeks, and he was telling me how wonderful it was in Taiwan because they didn't get locked down like most of the world got locked down. For 2 weeks they had it and then it was over. It didn't exist. And then he got a call from his good friend that's there who's getting ready to leave. He's an American. And said that, and I think some of his Taiwanese friends too had talked to him and said that now they're implementing the masks after all this time and they're going to have to wear it everywhere. So, and I was like, oh my, they're really trying to do their last push to get the fear vibration up. So this is where this comes in. I'm not going to be talking about religion. I am not a religious person. I don't believe in any man-made religions because they're exactly that, man-made. At one point, we all know that they came from a higher source, which is ourselves, before we were taken down as beings. And then, of course, they've been corrupted to benefit financially, through power, through whatever, control. There's a lot of things that religion was used to do. Not just religion, but other things. So, back to talking about source. My brother just called me. That's one of the reasons I woke up, to let me know he was in Taiwan. He's getting ready to be finally home. And he left yesterday. No, actually, it wasn't yesterday. It was the day before. It took him 2 days. He left Saturday. Today's Monday. To get back to Taiwan. And he said, Sonia, it was so bad on the European planes. It was horrific. Their fear level is just, it's out there. And on the plane, they were like, Stalin, you'll put the mask on and blah, 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 blah. But yet they took it off to eat. So I said I had a little tiny conversation with like a minute with him, texting back and forth. And I said, this is exactly why I'm going to do a video today. Why do we have such fear in our heart? And I'll tell you right now, and it's as simple as this. We have become that far away from our source, our God source. Because if you were not that far away from your God source, you would know. As you were born, you will die. It's a given. There's 2 things in this world that are a given. You're born and you die. These people hold so much fear because they don't know if they're going to exist past this shell. Because the way things, a part of our downfall was to sever us from our God source. Once they successfully severed us from our God source, the control began. And it was done slowly. This is not something that happened overnight. This is something that was worked on diligently. First, by corrupting the many religions. I don't think there's a religion out there that hasn't been corrupted in some manner or form. Making you afraid of God's source is a big one because he's full of wrath and anger and vengeance. It's so not true. God's source has absolutely no negativity within it. Yes, when we first came into this reality, when we came out of God's source, negativity came out of it too. But it wasn't inherent in, it was created like we were. So I'm looking at these people who hold fear in their heart. And I did a video, and it was about Anubis, where I saw him in the sky in a cloud, and he turned and looked at me, because this is the weighing and the measuring. Everything that holds in your heart is your vibration, and your vibration will determine whether or not you can go up, or you stay here, or even go down. And one of the main reasons that people hold such fear in their heart is because they've been severed with their connection with Source. Because if they had the connection, if they truly had the connection, they wouldn't be able to hold the fear of death in their heart. Well, how could they? I was talking to my brother, and I said this morning, if tomorrow all of this ended, it would not be the end for a lot. They have been so mentally damaged because they don't have the connection with God's Source, that the long-term outcome that they needed and wanted is already accomplished. And that's to continue to hold, because they've been trained since birth to hold fear in their heart for their very lives, because this is all you got. And it's so not true. It's so not true. I don't know if some of these people will ever have a resemblance of a life without fear until they come to a place in themselves that they reconnect to God's Source. Because the moment they reconnect to God's Source, that fear can no longer be held within your heart. It can't be. Because at that point, you know you're an eternal being. And I'm so wanting these people to reconnect to God's Source. Now, here's another thing. God's Source did not disconnect from you. You have disconnected from God's Source. Our mind is logical. Our heart is emotional. Of course, the heart is the mover. It's the mover. The mind is logical. It's the static logic. When the static logic overrules the mover, the heart, you become stagnated. This is why you need to merge them together, so you don't dwell in a reality of stagnation. And fear is a monster stagnation. If you are paralyzed by fear, it stops you dead in your tracks. You cannot continue to awaken and grow. You can't even go out your front door in your physical being. What does fear prevent you from doing? Going on a vacation? Going to your neighbor's house? Having a cookout? Going to the grocery store? Going out into any kind of scenario where there's another being? Being afraid of animals, being afraid of nature, being afraid of this reality. Like I said, fear is a stagnation. And that's what the Archon wanted all along. He needed you to stay into a state of fear with the low vibration so he can feed on you. Do you want to be food? Do you want to continue to be food? I suggest that everybody find their God Source. I know that almost everyone here watching me on this channel, we don't hold that fear in our heart. Don't let it in, not even for a moment. Because the moment the fear is allowed to come in for any scenario, it's got a foothold in you. And like any kind of disease or a cancer, it will fester. You really have to let the fear go. Fear is the biggest enemy you could ever have. It's an unseen thing, and it'll do more damage than a bullet to your brain. It'll do more damage than you falling off of a cliff, because it stagnates you in the living. It stagnates you in the metaphysical. And you simply can't move anywhere. You're frozen with fear. So I'm going to say, please reconnect back to Source, God's Source. When you do, all of a sudden you will become light. And the Archon doesn't want this at all. I'm not talking about reconnecting to a religion. I'm talking about your house is your worship center. You don't need to go to a building. You don't need to go to some temple. You are the temple. It's here. It's within you. It resides here no matter where you go. If you were lost at sea in a little dinghy, the temple is here. It's still within you. You don't have to go drive somewhere, walk somewhere to go worship yourself and connection with your God source. It does not take a third person to go through to do this. No, absolutely not. That's my ex. No, 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 no. No one can give you this. Not your priest, not your pastor. No one is a third go-between between you and your God source. That is your ordained right to have this. I don't preach about this. I hardly ever talk about it. But today, after talking to Kai and what I woke up with this morning, I'm like, we need to get back to our God source. Because if you need to put the fear down because you think this is all there is this shell and this reality, you have disconnected from God's source. You've done it. God's source would never disconnect from you. But you definitely would disconnect from God's source. Something happened in your life. You're angry about something. Somebody died. My pet died. My mother died. My father died. My friends died. My girlfriend left me. My boyfriend left me. There's no God. Of course there is. God's source is extremely real, just like you are. You are a God source. You are a God source. I suggest everyone reconnect to the higher vibration of God's source and find that God's source never left. He never left. He's always here. He's waiting for you to come back. And what I mean by come back is don't worship. It's not about worshiping. What it is about is finding out that you're eternal. It's finding out that he is, I say he, I guess you could say he or she, whatever, is total positivity and love. No, I don't believe in cults that worship. I honestly don't worship anything or anyone, but I do appreciate. And when there is a higher vibration, I'm going to go to the higher vibration. And I might not coexist with it, but I am going to acknowledge it and be a part of it. It doesn't mean I'm going to be there every time. No, it just means that I know I'm not the only one. You're not the only one. And I really don't worship, and I'll tell you why. In this reality, when you worship, you are giving your power away. You are giving your energy away. We have all been taught to worship, worship. God's source doesn't need you to worship God's source. God's source wants you to reciprocate the love to get to the higher reality. After all, God's source knows you're God's source and wants you elevated. So I don't worship. I never have. I don't do man-made religions. I never will. Of course, when I was young, I was indoctrinated into the Catholic religion. And as far as I can remember, I was just in elementary school when my parents went into this Catholic religion. I had big time problems with it, and I used to voice my opinion. And then I was just told to, don't worry about it. And I'm like, I have to worry about it. So obviously, as soon as I was old enough, which I was a young teenager, like 13, I was like, enough. I can't do something I disagree with completely. First thing is, I don't need to go tell anybody anything that I might have done, which you can deem a sin, which is ridiculous. We're not born in this reality because we've been so wiped, which that's another story where we shouldn't have been because of the reincarnation scheme, that if I do anything, that I need to be punished for doing something. It's like, really? Because unless you were born into this reality where you weren't wiped and you know absolutely everything, you're going to make mistakes. Of course you are. And they're only deemed mistakes because they're not accepted in this reality. By whom and what agenda? That's another thing. My mistake, you might deem as a mistake. I might deem as, well, okay, I'll do it differently next time. So the whole thing about you're a bad person, that in itself is ridiculous. You know, unless you're out harming and hurting, live and learn. And then let's get out of this reincarnation scheme and actually garner everything we've learned so we don't get wiped and have to be doomed to repeat it. I will say this. If anybody's halfway intelligent, think about this. Why would you come here and be wiped when you're an eternal being? To learn what if you've already known everything? And don't say it's because you want to relearn. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's so far from the truth, it's not even funny. You're an eternal being, and everything you do is garnered. And the moment you're wiped, it's ridiculous. It's like saying, I ate that hamburger for 2 seconds, and now I'm going to throw it up, and I'm starving again. I'm going to eat another hamburger, and I'm going to throw it up. It's like bulimia. It does no good to ingest things for 2 seconds and then get rid of it. There's no point, there's an issue. And that's this reincarnation scheme. And I don't care what anybody tells you. Oh, you just need an experience. No, you don't. You're an eternal being. You want to be an eternal, bright God source? You don't regurgitate everything you've learned because you'll never get anywhere. Which is why we're still stuck here. So I just wanted to go on to talking about release the fear, reconnect with your God source. Know that this is just a shell. Yes, it's nice here, but you are going to die. Now, how are you going to live? What's your quality of life? What's your quality of life? So I don't want to make a really long video. I look like hell. I just got out of bed. This will be the only time I make a video in the morning this early without brushing my hair, brushing my teeth. Okay, then. Everybody, please reconnect to your God source. You're an eternal being. Do not let fear hold in your heart. None of it. Live your life. Enjoy being here. We won't be here long. All right. Everybody have a great day. Bye.